Good morning. This is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, June 4th, 2026. The fire potential headlines for today include some very warm and dry weather area-wide through the weekend. We're also expecting strong winds starting on Friday across the west and spreading further east into the eastern half of the Great Basin on Saturday. And then we'll have some more wind early next week ahead of a series of troughs moving into the area, generally dry troughs. As far as fuels go, the fuels are definitely drying rapidly under this very dry air mass. So the fire potential impacts for the next couple of days include mostly wind and low relative humidities. So today we have some breezy conditions over the southern Snake River Plain and parts of eastern Utah, but the stronger winds really start on Friday along the Sierra Front. And then on Saturday, we'll see those strong winds moving further east and south into mainly the southern Great Basin, with gusts up to 45 miles an hour in these brown areas. The past 24 hours has been very quiet weather-wise. Fire activity, yesterday we saw 10 new fires for 18 acres and 0 acres on our large fire growth. ERCs are on the upward trend across the geographic area. Many of the PSAs are still sitting in that like 60 to 80th percentile in these lighter shades of green. But up through the central part of the Great Basin, where we have seen very little precip recently, those values are higher, and some of those stations are popping up above the 90th percentile in these orange dots. The upper level forecast for the next couple of days shows that low pressure system right now in place off the Pacific coast. Over the next few days, we'll see that low drawing closer to the Great Basin, really moving across the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies, and that will bring the dry, strong winds to the Great Basin over the coming days. As far as our significant fire potential product goes, we can see the browns expanding further northward on Friday, especially over northern and western Nevada, where we will see some pretty strong winds. We don't have high risk there just due to some recent precipitation. But Saturday is a very strong day for eastern Nevada and into western and southwest Utah, and we do have high risk issued for those strong winds. A closer look at the winds shown here. We do have some gusty winds along the Snake River Plain today and into western Wyoming and even the Uinta Basin. On Friday, the winds pick up over western Nevada, especially along the Sierra Front, where we could see gusts up to maybe 35, 40 miles an hour. And then on Saturday, Saturday's the big day, the winds really pick up over southern Nevada and into much of Utah. The Sierra Front will also see those gusty winds continuing, and we're expecting to see gusts here maybe up to 45 miles an hour or so, maybe even a little bit higher in some spots in southern Utah. So a big wind day on Saturday. And as far as the relative humidity goes, it is just very dry out there, single digits in many areas or very low teens for Utah and Nevada, and even the southern parts of the Snake River Plain are very dry as well. Not a lot of precipitation expected with this system. In fact, hardly any at all. Maybe a few sprinkles on our far northern zones on Saturday. Looking at the upper air pattern for the second half of the period on Sunday, the impacts from Saturday's low will still be felt across the southern parts of the Great Basin for some continuing strong winds across far southern Utah, and we do have high risk for those winds. Another low sets up off the Pacific coast that will start to move in on Monday, and we'll see some gusty winds coming back in on Monday. This next low is a little bit stronger. We're not really looking yet at much precipitation, but this low could possibly bring some precip to the north starting on Tuesday, coming to Idaho, and certainly some cooler temperatures across the north as well, but another round of strong winds. All right, a closer look at the winds here, showing those strong winds on Sunday continuing across the southern and eastern Great Basin, or the southern and eastern Utah, with low relative humidities. On Monday, more winds ahead of that next trough, and those winds continue into Tuesday as well. Looking at the precip, not really expecting much Sunday into Monday, but on Tuesday with that next stronger trough, we could see some precipitation moving into the northern parts of the area. To sum it all up, here's a look at the 7-day. Again, we see some browns moving into northern Nevada tomorrow with the increased winds, and then high risk, mainly in Utah and eastern Nevada on Saturday, and then continuing across southern Utah on Sunday. No high risk issued for the first part of next week. We'll keep an eye on those winds with that next trough, but we do see some green coming to our northern zones with a little bit of that precip by midweek next week. The extended forecast for June 9th through the 13th puts near normal temperatures across our northern and western areas, and maybe even some above normal precipitation across some of the area as well. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back later this afternoon. We'll be issuing our first fuels webcast, weekly fuels webcast later today. So look out for that. And we'll be back tomorrow with the fire potential briefing.